Hello, friends. We are here to review The Real Housewives of New York. This is episode 3. I still don't know the season number. What are we giving on season numbers? I think it's 14. But I could be completely making that up. But I think it's 14. I don't know, but I know it's episode 3. Basically, we start off the episode with them back in the Hamptons. I watched this clip a lot, or maybe there were a lot of clips. I don't know, but we're starting with the. Well, we really start with the girls kind of coming to Aaron's room, which is fun. I know that, I like when you go on like a girls trip or like a friends trip, and you just kind of like in the morning when you wake up, everybody like joins in to one person's room, jumps into bed, and they kind of like rehash the night before. But the girls were doing a lot of complaining, more notably Jessel. And I agree. It's not just because the girls were saying Jessel was complaining. I was noting that she did do a lot of complaining. So we're coming up off that. But also a big discussion is the fact that Jenna left the night before, around midnight, while the girls were kicking it, and she didn't say goodbye. Now Jenna's whole thing is that she left because she had a 6:30 call and she didn't want to interrupt the girls partying, and the music was loud. It was over her room. So she went back to her house in the Hamptons, which was not far down the road or something like that. Couple things. So she left around 12, and the call is at 6. Whether it's a Zoom call or just like a phone call, it doesn't require much preparation. Again, I'm not Jenna Lyons, and I actually like Jenna, so it's not a read on Jenna. But I just don't feel like there was going to be much preparation needed for the call. But different people do different things, so I can't speak for her, but that's just my feeling. And so I just don't think that that's a valid excuse. And then in tandem with that, like having to go to sleep, the girls are partying or whatever, the girls say that it was around 10 o'clock when Jenna first decided to even go to bed, right? So it wasn't even late. And so I'm kind of on their side of things. At the end of the day, where I landed on it is that it's just inconsiderate on Jenna's part to have gotten up and left at the end of the day, because I think that she was more so coming up with excuses than it was to be necessary that she left. And I think, and it definitely, we can consider the fact that she says she's not good on girls trips and she's not comfortable, blah 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 blah, fine, whatever. But at the end of the day, it was inconsiderate, right? But I don't think Jenna's a bad person. I think she's cool. When she came back to the house and they were kind of addressing her about it, yes, it was serious and they felt some type of way, but it wasn't like big and catty, and it wasn't this big crazy beef. And I can appreciate them being able to have this conversation. But at the end of the day, Jenna, that was, it was some BS. And she shouldn't have done it. I think she realized that later on, but we'll talk about, because they talk about it again, we'll talk about it. The girls then work out. I did enjoy seeing all of them do the workout, because I think a lot of times maybe not even a lot of times, but sometimes when you watch the seasons and they do this thing where they're on a trip and they get up to work out, some girls will do it, some won't. So it was fun to see them at least all participate. I think maybe that stood out to me because I probably would have been one of the girls not to participate. But maybe if I was in a good mood and looking to participate, then I would have, like, be a team player. But I don't really want to work out on vacation in the morning. I should, but I don't really want to. As it's happening, BRYNN arrives. I made a note that I really enjoyed her outfit, like the little sweats and then her fur. That's kind of my jam. So I think I will pull up looking the same way. So I enjoyed that. But BRYNN shows up and she immediately brings the show with her. I hate to say it. Like, she was just... I enjoyed the show while she wasn't there last episode. Let me say that. I really did. I like all the ladies, to be honest with you. But she was, like, a lot of fun. All her commentary, like even her flirting with the trainer and all that stuff, it felt a little less like we saw like a preview of it, so it felt weird. But we got the context this episode that she's known him for years, and even when she was giving the banter, she's like, "I'm just kidding, guys," blah blah blah. So it was fun. Like, I had a good time when BRYNN got there. I was enjoying it. She also did a little shade to Sag Harbor, which I thought was funny. She's like, Southampton is really where it's at, but Sag Harbor's cute. So I thought it was funny. I think she's just a fun girl at the end of the day. Like, she came ready to work. I also made a note. I keep saying, I don't know if it was like, I do so many reviews now, so I just don't know which show it was on and what, so forgive me for repeating myself. But I've made a note that I like these, like, kind of glamour-esque edits that they do to show like the girls' vibes. And I made a note that after the workout, they all left their sweaty gym shoes outside of the house as they went in. So I thought that was funny. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but I'm like, oh girl, they're like, yeah, we were just working out. Our shoes are sweaty. I doubt that they smelled any type of way. That's not an indication of like, well, it can be, but I don't think it would be an indication of like their, their body odor or like the way that they take care of themselves or anything. But like at the end of the day, it gave like, girl, we just worked out. We don't want sweaty shoes in the house. Super bougie, super cute. I like that. Well, then we circle back around to they're just having a cute little banter like the girls would do. And Aaron's kind of tucked off. The girls are kind of like unwinding, and Aaron's kind of tucked off in the kitchen with Jenna. And she's just like, girl, she's not backing down on it, but she's not being mean about it. So kudos to her as a host and as somebody that I, said I think can be kind of like type A, which is nothing wrong with. But she's just like, yeah, girl, like, you could have just been here. Like, at the end of the day, that's BS. Like, I wanted you here. You should have been here. And Jenna still had her reasoning, but she was like, fine. Like, I apologize. So I like conversations like that. This is like I guess the second conversation we can say that we've had Jenna have with one of the girls where she's holding them accountable. And it was an easy resolve. You know what I'm saying? They each have their point of view. They each have their perspective. Aaron stood on where she was at. And she's like, this is how I feel. And Jenna apologized and they moved on. So I like exchanges like that and I appreciated it. But then Brennan's not feeling that. And this caught me completely off guard. But I understood it. I let it play out before I really formed an opinion about it. But BRYNN is feeling like, I forgot who she was having that conversation with. I want to say it was Jessel. And she's just like, now wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? She's like, Aaron, because somebody downloads her on what happened. And she's like, well, hold on. She's like, when I did the restaurant thing and I decided to go to a different restaurant, Aaron made a big deal about it, which I noted because Aaron was like, I'm not feeling her right now and I'm put off on her and all that stuff. Like, she was really pissed off. And, she did say she was pissed at Jenna and she did give Jenna some energy, but she did kind of get over it pretty quickly. But also to her credit, like, I do feel like once her and BRYNN had the conversation, she got over it quickly as well. I think it was just that, it was two different scenarios, kind of similar, but two different scenarios, same premise, I guess, on just being inconsiderate as it pertains to something that Aaron planned. But I think that the time spans were different, right? Because Jenna's was a little bit more immediate. It was within the 24 hours. And BRYNN's, I want to say, took a couple weeks. But I can understand BRYNN feeling like, essentially she felt like, Jenna got a pass and Aaron got over it quickly. So she feels like that. We're going to get back to that later. I made a note. It was a lot of funny stuff to me. Like, Sai is making a joke about being hungry. And she's just like, girl, like, Aaron hasn't fed us all trip.
Aaron hasn't fed us all weekend. She didn't even make the shashuka, shika, shuka, whatever the dish it was that she was supposed to be making us. I'm so happy to be at this restaurant right now because I was about to eat my hand off.
So I thought that was hilarious. That was a fun edit. They're having lunch, and I think that, I don't know if this was the initial time that BRYNN brought it up. I don't know if I kind of jumped into it, but BRYNN's now having a conversation with Jessel about it, and Jessel agrees, like, yeah, it does seem like, Jenna kind of got off easily. I don't know if it's because they're close or maybe like Jessel really felt that way, because like I said, I didn't really catch it until it was mentioned, but I do think it was a valid point. And, I made a big note that BRYNN just wasn't scared, right? Like, they're sitting at lunch or dinner or whatever it was. I believe it was lunch, though. And BRYNN jumps in immediately. She's like, I don't remember what they were talking about, but she's just like, yeah, well, Jenna, there's nothing you can do wrong.
What? Yeah, it's kind of your fault.
No, nothing is your fault, Jenna. Nothing can be Jenna's fault. It's probably my fault.
And immediately Jenna catches it like, okay, girl, like, what's going on? And, BRYNN gets into it. She's like, well, I don't know if I want to bring it up right now, even though she had already subliminally brought it up and had talked about it behind closed doors to other ladies. And she's just like, Aaron, I feel like there was a double standard here. Like, you didn't get mad at Jenna the way you got mad at me about the restaurant thing. And Aaron kind of falls in immediately. And she's like, well, she kind of did one of those, like, she couldn't rebut it. And she's like, well, maybe I like Jenna more. I appreciated that. Like, I didn't have a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? I think it was partially in jest, partially true, and partially in some accountability. She's like, it almost felt like that I said what I said energy. It felt like that. And she threw it back at her, and I think that BRYNN caught it as BRYNN would catch it. Like, I feel like those girls can hold their own, right? And, BRYNN continues to tell her, like, well, I don't think that's cool. I think that it's a double standard. You didn't hold Jenna accountable. Aaron is kind of like differentiating it for her. So at this point, I feel like they both have valid points. Like I said, Aaron highlights that, hey, behind closed doors, she definitely likes Jenna better. But also, their spat, like her and Jenna's spat, happened very quickly, like overnight, and Jenna held herself accountable, I guess. I don't really know that I would say she held herself accountable. I think it was more so Aaron was like, girl, I didn't like that. And Jenna was like, okay, I apologize. So fine. But I feel like that's what happened with BRYNN too. But I think the only difference, like I already said, is the time span. Like, she had more time to stew and be mad at BRYNN. And then they had the conversation and she got over it pretty quickly. So I can see both sides. I feel like they got over it pretty well. So I don't think it was a huge deal. I do think it may come up, though. I think it may become a recurring theme that Aaron maybe favors Jenna more, because BRYNN did do her hinting like, well, Jenna has more to offer, than me in the checkbook of Aaron. So I think that that'll probably be a reoccurring theme and it'll probably show itself again, but we must wait and see. Aaron also, I don't know how they transition over, but they kind of start keying on Jessel. And Jessel was not prepared, because they're just like, you complain a lot at the end of the day. And Jessel kind of seemed like she was immediately on guard. Because, again, like I said, it didn't seem like she was ready for it. And I don't know that Jessel seems like she's the most self-aware. At least in this scene, it kind of felt like that. Like, because they all are, like, unanimously agreeing. And they're just kind of like, girl, like, you were being super rude to Jenna and you weren't even noticing it. And she's kind of like saying like, okay, like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have been. She did that thing where she's like, maybe I shouldn't have been so rude. Like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But then she's also kind of justifying and saying, I wasn't really critiquing the garment. I was critiquing how it looked on me. Like, I didn't like how it looked on me. So there was some justification there, which the girls noted in their confessionals, at least. And they're just like, I don't think that Jessel is kind of understanding the magnitude of it. And she wasn't. So I think that's why I think she lacks some type of like self-awareness at the end of the day. But I don't think she's a bad person. But I don't think she understands the way that she comes off. So I think it'll be interesting to watch that dynamic continue to play out, because she kind of seems like an outlier in that way. Like, it's weird because BRYNN seems like the one with the mouth, but Jessel kind of seems like the one that's kind of like ignorant to really what's going on. Like, she's not really reading the room very well. So that's going to be interesting. And I think it's hard for the girls to kind of call it out, because Jessel's probably a really nice girl. They all seem like nice girls. But like I said, she comes off rude. And it's kind of hard to call out your friends for being maybe inadvertently rude. So it'll be interesting to see that play out. Jenna didn't really get too much into it as I maybe would have wanted. I was going to say expected, but I didn't expect it. But yeah, I think she should have been more vocal about that being rude, because it was pointed at her. But, the other lady spoke up, so whatever. My note says Jessa is weird with accountability. So that's a good. If you guys didn't feel the longer analysis, Jessa is weird with accountability. I feel like it's perfect, spot on. I also made a note. So they get back to the house and they're getting ready for dinner and they're kind of getting dressed. And Jenna's talking about how she's going to put on jeans and like a little, button up. And somebody makes the joke where it's like, she has the biggest closet, but it has all button ups in it. Probably BRYNN, because she was doing great this episode. Uba takes it upon herself to say like, oh girl, I have something good that'll look good on you. And I was thinking to myself like, I don't know. Like, not that it wasn't going to look good on her, but just kind of like, it's easy for somebody else to say that. Like, I kind of saw both sides of it. Like, I wouldn't necessarily want to critique the way that Jenna dresses, because that's how she's comfortable. And she already made it clear that she's just not super comfortable in different ways. So, but I also like the fact that they're challenging her to get out of her comfort zone and not act so grandma. But I was shocked that the dress that she picked out for Jenna was actually gorgeous on Jenna. Like, it was beautiful on her. So I loved that. I made that note. we get some funniness, right? Like, we get some good dynamics of the ladies. You know, they go to the dinner, they have dinner, but when they come home, you know, Erin's trying to start the fire. She has an issue starting it. I liked watching her be able to call her husband and, like, see the banter where he's, like, trying to help her. And he's like, well, I'm DJing right now. Like, he's, you know, he's on the phone, he's busy. And Sai comes to help. You could tell she has, like, a cool relationship with them. And she gets on the phone with the husband. I think his name was Abe. She gets on the phone with him. She's trying to help. Brynn's out there being irritating, but in a fun way, and she's just like playing around, but she's also helping, and she's also playing on around the phone with Abe. Jenna's on the inside, minding her business. Like, that was all just fun to me. So I really had a good time with that. They go out, they get towards the fire. There was a very, very interesting conversation where I can't remember who it was, but they were saying how the dollar store was fun. And Sai's like, no, it's not. You know, and I like the dynamic question, kind of like the demographics conversation about like, well, you know, it's fun for people that have money, but the dollar store is not fun for poor people. And I like that we got to see that side of Sai because I think that Sai can sometimes say things that seem a little bit harsh. Harsh is a harsh word, but like I don't know. She says some things that are pointed sometimes. Probably just the New York of it all is what I feel. But I can get how just like a common viewer will be like, you know, about size sometimes. But it was fun to see. You know, it humanizes her if you felt like she needed to be humanized, and she's just giving her perspective of growing up without. You know what I'm saying, and how she kind of grew up off the dollar store and they used to depend on the dollar store and it just wasn't a fun thing for them because I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. And I had never really thought about it. Like, you know, I think a lot of people like myself look at the dollar store as like a luxury, right? Like it's like, or maybe more so of like a convenience, right? Like, oh, well, I could spend more money, but it's like, oh, you know, I'm woke, I'm conscious. I know I can save money and just go to the dollar store and get it. Like, ooh, good choice for me. But some people actually really have to depend on the dollar store. So it was fun to hear that conversation, and it was nice to also see Brynn be able to weigh in, and you know, she kind of gave the same analysis, like, you know, sometimes Sai, I forgot the language she used, but you know, kind of like Sai can kind of be a little bit off-putting by the way that she acts and the things that she says, but you can tell that she's human, right? And you can relate to her on that level, or Brynn could relate to her on that level. So that was a really good conversation to watch. And yeah, it was just, you know, fun stuff at the end of the day. You know, Brynn trying to get the refrigerator to open and saying, Siri, open the refrigerator.
Wait, we need sake. We need...
Brynn's getting it.
Where's the wine? Siri, open the door. Oh, I hate the Hamptons. Alexa, how do you open this? God, white people are so weird.
Like, you know, I think that Brynn was the all-star of this episode. It was kind of crazy. I didn't watch the tweets for this episode. It was trending at some point, but I was too busy arguing with people on Twitter about Atlanta. And so I'm interested to see. I should go back. But for me, Brynn was just such a light in this episode. I hate to, like, make her stand out as if she's the star, but I'm getting to know all the ladies, and I like all of the ladies. And I gave some really good highlights to a lot of the other ladies in the last two reviews, but this one, Brynn took the cake for me. I had a great time with her. She was hilarious. And I might post 1,000 clips of her as we do these reviews. But I thought that it was a great episode. I think that we're seeing that even when the ladies have kind of like conflicts and things that they don't like, they're able to be pointed and be real and have a conversation about it and move on, but still maintain their opinion about it. And I think that's representative of the real world and how it should be. So I like seeing that dynamic. And I think also, you know, I'm still trying to weigh in on how representative this group is. I get that there are different races and nationalities, but there's more to diversity than that. And just hearing the conversation about Sai coming up without and Brynn being able to relate, I think that shows more diversity in the group as well. We're not just looking at rich women that just are rich to be rich, and it is what it is. So that was nice to watch. So I really enjoyed this episode, and it was fun. And we got a resolve, we got conflict, we got all types of stuff. So I had fun with it, and I'm excited to see more. So I will see you guys in the next one.